Hey YouTubers, this is Mr. Mega Man Fan, and I'm going to be offering some episode commentary for the first episode of Mega Man the Complete series, which I just did an unboxing video for, and I had a question in that unboxing video that I'm going to answer. Mario 500 Now wanted to know if there were any synchronization issues between the DVD's audio track and the video playback. Well, not so far as I can tell, because the sound effects certainly do match up. When Bomb Man throws bomb, it goes off when it's supposed to. When Cut Man uses his cut blade, it cuts when it's supposed to, and the sound effect matches up. But if you're watching it, that the lip motions and the voices aren't perfectly tuned up, well, I would attribute that more to the fact that it's a Ruby Spears produced cartoon, and they had a very limited number of voice animations that they used for the faces, and so some of the words that they're saying just don't match up with their mouth motions. That's kind of typical for any Ruby Spears produced cartoon. Watch a few, you'll see what I mean. They kind of cut corners in a few places. It's sort of charming when you watch it in hindsight, but it's also not the high quality of animation you'd come to expect if you're a fan of anime like I am. So, speaking of which, this caused a little debate with Sir Crunch and I. Shout out to Sir Crunch. I'll throw a link to his video channel in here. And he's been a friend of mine for a long time, and he buys a lot of anime. If you watch his videos, you'll know what I mean. So he and I were getting into a debate about whether or not there was a Japanese language version of it, because I have never found credits for Japanese voice actors. Furthermore, since this was a co-production with Ruby Spears, I believe it was made entirely for the American market, with English actors doing the voices all along. Now, if I'm wrong about that, somebody correct me, but I've never seen a Japanese dub of Mega Man the Animated Series. I've never seen it as an import. I've never seen a hybrid DVD with Japanese actors. I've looked on IMDb. I can't find any Japanese voice actor credits. They don't seem to exist. I don't believe there's a Japanese version of it, but if I'm wrong, tell me so. Leave me a note in the comments section. Well, I can't show you the episode itself because that would be breaking copyright, and I don't want to do that. I want you to actually go buy the DVDs anyway. But let me throw in a few still shots here and there, just for fair use for commentary and review purposes. At the end, I will rate the episode, and I'm going to use a scale of 1 to 5 megas. 5 being best thing you've ever seen, or possibly, one of the best episodes of the whole series. 1 being, oh my god, this is so campy that it's actually gone into unfathomable categories, like it should be parodied by Mystery Science Theater 3000, or it would be the subject of a WrestleCrap entry if it was wrestling. That's what 1 mega out of 5 will mean. 5 out of 5 is the best. 1 out of 5 is, it's only good for the sheer badness of it. Like, you can enjoy it for how hilariously awful it is. But good spots. Wily is definitely a good spot in this episode. He gets all the best lines. Like, early on in the show, he says to Proto Man, "Why didn't I implant some humble chips into that boy?" And I will admit, his evil German goose-stepping accent could be a little much at times, but the voice actor who's playing Wily does it with such enthusiasm and charisma, you kind of overlook it and just enjoy him. One of the best lines he has is when he's kidnapped Rock and Roll and they're in his laboratory, and he goes, "Oh, I'm a bad scientist." Yeah, it's like he's enjoying the fact that people perceive him as being off the deep end and a loony bin, and he's just gonna run with it. He's totally carefree and unfettered by society's expectations. So he kind of becomes the anti-hero. I'm sure that's not what they intended. They wanted him to be just truly evil so kids could point at him and go, "He's evil." But when you watch it from an older perspective, it takes on a different meaning. Speaking of things that take on a different meaning, I'm a little bothered by Roll having a vacuum cleaner hand. I know that she was built as an assistant to Dr. Light, but just something about it feels sexist and wrong, especially with Rock always constantly deriding her and saying, well, here's one of the lines he used in the episode. He said, "I've learned you don't listen when I tell you to stay put, so I might as well have you where I can keep an eye on you." What? Really? Okay. First of all, a woman can go anywhere she wants. She doesn't need a man's permission to do so. And if you think that's not quite correct because they're robots, well, guess what? Dr. Light programmed them to feel human and act human. So she's got human rights as much as her brother does. She can do anything she wants, she can be anything she wants, and she doesn't need a man to keep an eye on her. And furthermore, since he reprogrammed Rock to be a fighting robot Mega Man, then why wouldn't he reprogram his sister too? If she wants to fight, she wants to participate in the battles, why is he giving her a hand cleaner? Okay, so we never see Roll as a fighting robot in any of the games. I understand that, so they were kind of making this up from scratch. But since they were going to have her as a character in the show, that Dr. Light could have given her a Mega Buster too. There's no reason not to, other than for her to portray this silly role and for her and Mega Man to bicker with each other as some form of comic relief. But it just comes off feeling sexist. It reminds me of the Flintstones, and not really in a good way, because watching old episodes of the Flintstones can be campy and charming to a point, but you just start to feel bad for Wilma after a while that she's always waiting on Fred hand and foot. Mega Man lies to Dr. Wily, and he gets really upset about this. Robots can't lie! Well, wait a minute. He has free will. He has human emotions. Why can't he lie? I mean, are we supposed to assume they have Asimov's laws of robotics built into them? Not that that's ever stated, but Wily just seems dumbfounded by this. And it's even more amazing that he's dumbfounded by it because he's evil. He's reprogrammed all of the robots he stole from Dr. Light to do bad things. And Proto Man clearly has the same level of free will that Rock and Roll do. So, what should we be surprised if Proto Man lies? In fact, I think if I watch more of these episodes, I'll probably see Proto Man lying quite frequently and freely to anybody and everybody he wants to. So, this expectation that robots can't lie, it doesn't pass muster here. But on the plus side, going back to positives about this first episode of Mega Man the Animated Series, the justification that Dr. Light gives for rebuilding Rock as the fighting robot Mega Man instead of building a battle robot from scratch makes perfect sense. Dr. Light says, I need a robot with a moral compass. I need a robot with compassion, so when he's fighting for a cause and he's fighting for what's right. So that makes sense. Why would you build a battle robot from scratch when one, you've already got a working robot, and two, he's got an emotional compass that makes him choose the right action for the best reasons and to do good to help others. If you're going to imbue a robot with fighting powers, you'd want it to be a robot that would use those powers for the right reasons. You build a new robot from scratch, he might be wired differently, his cybernetic brain might function differently, he might not have the same moral compass that Dr. Light's quote-unquote son does. So I buy this. I like that explanation. I like the backstory. There's little things thrown in for the fans, like Dr. Wily's castle. That's a nice touch. Not so thrilled with the Metar being a medical robot. Why did they look at the cross on his head and decide, okay, Red Cross, he's a medical robot. He's not a evil thing that ducks under its helmet and then pops out and shoots at you. No, he's a helpful little assistant. The cross on his helmet doesn't mean he's Red Cross. So maybe it's better that he only shows up in this one episode. And another fallacy, I hate to point it out because I actually do like this opening episode, but why is Mega Man so reliant on Eddie feeding him cans of energy that he gulps down like they're Red Bulls? Wouldn't you want your robot, especially a fighting robot, to be a little more self-reliant than that? At least in the games, it makes sense that Mega Man picks up energy as he goes to recharge himself, especially from robots he's defeated that have probably left their energy packs or batteries or whatever you want to call it behind. He picks it up as he goes along. You almost feel justified for Dr. Wily getting mad and going off on his own when Dr. Light insists, oh, it's your guidance system that's at fault. No, we don't even need to run a diagnostic and check over this robot. Nope, nope, nope. You're obviously the one who screwed up here. If I was Dr. Wily, I'd take offense to that as well. Like, at least do a diagnostic and see what part of the robot went wrong before you assume that it was my part in the creation of this robot that caused it to go bad. So, Dr. Wily unintentionally becomes a hero, and there are some good lines in this episode. It's got a lot of throw-ins for the fans of the video games, things they would recognize and appreciate. The backstory is good. The campy dialogue is not as over the top as I remember it being in some of the other episodes. So, for telling the backstory well, and despite the sexist elements that bother me a little bit, it's a good starting point for Mega Man the Animated Series. I'm going to go ahead and give it 4 megas out of 5. Maybe if I was splitting them, I would do 3.5, but I'm not going to do any splits. It's either a whole mega or no mega. And that's the Mega Man Episode 1 review.